Hello and welcome to Masterpiece Monday. My name is Iraja for those who are not familiar with me. And if you are, it's your girl back again with another episode for Masterpiece Monday. Welcome, and today we'll be talking about boundaries. That's the topic for today. And so if you are someone who is in a journey to know yourself better, make better decisions, then this video is for you. And so jumping right into it, I want us to talk about our relationships when it comes to saying no. All right, and we can think of it from all the way back to our childhood. All right, and coming from the Ghanaian upbringing that I had growing up, most of the time you're expected to listen to your elders no matter what it is that they say, right? So your parents would say something like, listen to this person because they're older than you, do this because they're older than you. It's all about age, and I think that has been quite detrimental to us as young women, especially growing up in that kind of environment. And this is not to dismiss African culture and respect for elders. Like, definitely respect your elders. However, when there are some things that elders are doing which are not right and the child is not comfortable with it, the child should have the opportunity to say no and should be validated by the parents when they say no. We don't have to be forced to do certain things, and I think that plays a very important role in the dynamic or the way that we show up in relationships. Because if you are raised to do what is expected of you from other people, disregarding what you actually want to do, when we enter relationships, we take that into the relationships as well, and that leads to codependency. And so we're not going to delve too much into codependency. You can, maybe for another video we can talk about that. However, today's video, like I said, is on boundaries. And so mainly, do you struggle to say no? Do you struggle to put what it is that you want to do at the forefront of what it is that you actually want to do, versus thinking about everybody else around you and ignoring yourself, right? And when it comes to the relationships especially, do we actually take time to focus on what it is that we would like to do versus what our partners want to do? And so drawing from my experience again, because my experience is my experience, like you can't take that away from me. And same like you watching this video, your experience is your experience. No one can invalidate your experience because it is your experience and it is particular to you. Healthy relationships thrive on boundaries. They really do. And healthy boundaries, okay? So if you are in a relationship with someone who ignores your boundaries, you have values. We need to get to that point where we can have the ability to say no and stick to that no matter what it looks like. And so right now, the point that I've reached, I did inner work, and I'm still doing that inner work. And with my research, listening to like podcasts and going to therapy for a while, I came to the realization that my boundaries were actually non-existent. They were there to some extent, but throughout a certain period of my life, they were pretty much non-existent. And so rebuilding those boundaries again has led me to where I am today, where now I can actually say no. I can think about things from my perspective. Do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this? Or why don't I want to do this? And I can stick to my decision. So no matter what anybody else around me is thinking, especially when it comes to family, like now, listen, if I want to do something, I will do that thing. I'm not talking about ridiculous stuff. I'm talking about things that are important and are of value to me as an individual, because this life, we came alone. Like, yes, we have parents, yes, we have siblings, but God created us individually, one on one. We came to this world as singles, right? And we're going to leave this world that way. And so if you struggle to say no, struggle to be assertive, it would be very great for yourself and for the relationships in your life that you have, for you to learn how to actually stick to your boundaries. Because what happens when you don't honor yourself is that, yes, one, you dishonor yourself, like I mentioned throughout the sentence I just said, and two, you start to resent that person which you are dishonoring your boundaries for, because you walked over yourself, you overlooked your wants and your needs. And so actually, if you watch the previous video, you will see how this ties in so beautifully with today's video. But if you didn't, go back and click it. I'll link it up here somewhere so you can watch it after this video. But we were talking about desires, wants, needs, submission, that kind of stuff. And so it goes back to knowing what it is that you want to do. And once you know what it is that you want to do, how do you implement that? And so spending time with yourself. Some people literally can't sit with themselves. They can't sit with themselves alone. Their thoughts, they can't handle it. if you cannot sit alone with yourself for at least an hour, you may need to reevaluate certain things in your life. Because if you yourself can't sit with yourself for 1 hour in silence, who do you expect to sit with you in another hour? Like, why? And what's going on in your head that you can't sit with yourself for 1 hour? Like, you don't like yourself, you don't like your thoughts, what are you running away from? These are things that we need to be thinking about as we delve into the inner work that we are doing. And so for me, I love my company. Before, I was able to go out to restaurants alone. Anywhere I wanted to go, I would just go, get up, and I will go. And for a while, I lost that. I had to always go somewhere with a particular person in my life. And that also had to do with codependency and, that whole other aspect of things. But now I've reached that point again where I can go out to a restaurant and eat alone. I can go to places and be there alone, and I will actually be okay. I wouldn't be self-conscious or anything like that. And so getting to that point was me just going into a period of isolation and more of like a wilderness season, which God took me through. This was around 2020, 2021, COVID times, literally not being able to move. That helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. And it was God's way of having alone time with me. And that was after I truly surrendered to Him to lead my life. And so even though I was a Christian and I was, practicing things of God and practicing things that the Bible says to do, I only really, truly, fully, the way I'm surrendered to God right now is not how I surrendered to Him when I was in high school. Because high school, I did surrender to Him again. Like, for the very first time, I gave my life to God. Seriously, not because my parents said, let's go to church, and was like, the reason I actually used to go to church? One of the reasons. If you guys, any of you went to Christ the King, they used to sell spring rolls. I don't even know if they still sell it there. But they used to sell spring rolls and then ice cream and drinks. So after church, that would just be the first place that I would make a beeline to, and it's very delicious spring rolls. And so that was one of the motivating factors for which I went to church. But now that has definitely changed. I appreciate actually having a community. You think like, oh, why do I have to go to church? I can just read the Bible and be okay. Yes, you can. Think of it like studying for an exam. You can study for an exam on your own. You definitely can. And you can most likely pass your exam. However, would it not be beneficial if you have a study group? It would. People that you can run ideas through, or even like collaborating, some questions that they may ask when on a particular topic, you may not have thought of them. But when somebody asks that, you can answer it, and who knows, maybe it may come in the exam, it may not. But even if it doesn't, at least you were prepared in the event that it actually did come up. So think of it like that. You're able to work with people, they're able to keep you accountable, and yeah, you're just not living life alone. So it's something that you may want to consider as you go to church and develop your relationship with God. Coming back to boundaries, I know that a lot of people, from their comments and questions to me, it's obvious that they're questioning certain things that I'm doing. And where I've reached in my life right now, the work it took me to get to this point, that I can actually have a decision in mind and stick to it, follow through with it. It's such a beautiful place to be, because living life for other people or for reasons outside of you is a horrible place to be. It really is. And so now it's God and I. God and I, God and I, God and I, God and I, God and I. What does God say about it? It's not about what do my parents say about it, what do my siblings say about it, what do my friends say about it. No. You have to break off the fear of man, break off the fear of people's opinions. And so for a while, when I started sharing my testimony online, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are these people going to see it and all of that? But it was such an urgency with which God was putting on my heart, and I finally did it. Initially, people were not understanding, and I don't think many people who have not experienced what I went through understand why I share the things I share. But for the people that have been through it, they know it's for a very specific group of people, specifically women, right? And so if I have been freed from such a situation, and then here you come, you can relate, asking me some ignorant questions, which I thank God that as much as I delayed in leaving the negative relationship that I was in, I thank God that I didn't share with certain people until they saw it online, and then we had like maybe a conversation about it. Because some questions that I was asked, if I was asked that fresh out of the relationship, I would have questioned myself so much. I would have felt like I did the wrong thing and began to doubt myself. But because I healed you know, before sharing certain things. And as I'm still healing, I'm not completely healed, right? But I had healed to an extent that I was able to hear their questions, have a slight bit of offense, because it's like, are you serious? Like, why are you even asking me this thing? Why are you even making such comments? But gotten to the point where I could address those things and stick to my boundaries of putting things in place. Think of it like a house. I want you to think of access to you like a house. Some people can only come to your gate. They can't even enter the gate, all right? And then others can only come into the compound. Some people can also go into the guest room. Others can be at the outhouse if you have an outhouse. And then there's some people who can be in your living room. Others can be in your study. Others can be in your kitchen. But very few people can have access to your bedroom. And that's exactly how the layers to which people can get through to you are. It's not everyone who has access to your innermost self or the close parts of you. And so in order for someone to have that access, they have to earn that. Even having a spare key to your place. Not everybody. How many people have spare keys to your house? Very few people, if anyone, has that actually. There's a certain level a person must be before they get that access to having keys to your house where they can just come in and out as they please. Same way, for a person to have access to you, your boundaries need to be strong enough to the point where you can choose who to allow into your life and who not to allow into your life. People can pretend, and I've been a victim of that. I won't even say I'm a victim at this point. I'm a survivor, I am thriving, and I am moving on from that phase in my life, right? But there's people who can pretend and pretend and pretend. They come close to you, they get access, and then it's a whole mess. But what we can do once we see that this is not going the way that it started is to take a step back, evaluate our boundaries, evaluate taking decisions that will actually serve in our best interest. And boundaries are there to protect yourself. They're there for a reason, okay? And they also help in relation to others. You're able to keep bad people out. And if for some reason a bad person comes in, we need to develop ourselves to the point where we can actually take decisions that can let those people, not even let, that will sack those people. We will sack them ourselves. Because our boundaries have been solidified to the point where we can take decisions and say, you know what? This isn't serving me anymore. It was for a while, and now it's not. Maybe you can have a discussion, see where things go. But ultimately, when something is not working for you, you would have to take a step back and evaluate and see, where do you want to actually go in life? You know, what is it that you like? Is this in line with what you like? What do you want? What do you desire? Like, all the effort that I've made in my life, where I have reached, personally, I'm speaking about myself. This point that I've reached in my life, am I willing to just let anybody come into my life? Even before I reach this point, it's like, before you go close to me, listen, you had to work for that. You really had to. So for you to have access to me and fumble that, like you had me and you fumbled me, like, yo, that's a big L for you. I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. So if you just fumble me, that's on you. And so moving forward, as we work on our boundaries and get better relationships, it's something that having boundaries is something that is very important for us in our future relationships, our relationship with ourselves. And I pray that we each work on our boundaries and are still, as an African, as a Ghanaian, are still respectful of our culture. What I would like for us to do is have boundaries and still be able to be assertive and respectful, especially when dealing with our parents or people who are old. That's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, comment down below, let me know what you think, and let me know what you would like to see in my next video. Take care and God bless. Bye.